This time I got a JVC HRA57. This is a VHS hi-fi machine with Super VHS tape playback capabilities. This one was given to me a while back. It came from a friend that, well, you'll see when we get into it. It's not going to be that clean because it came from a smoker's home. So I don't know what's wrong with it. The fellow that gave it to me, he didn't know whether it worked or not. We're going to check it out today and go through this thing and tear it apart and see what makes this one so special. Today I got a JVC VCR from the House of Smoke. That almost sounds like the name for a restaurant, the House of Smoke. Anyway, this one's it's a basic machine. 4-head, 19 micron head. Features SQPB. That stands for Super VHS Quasi Playback, which means it will play a Super VHS tape, but not at full Super VHS quality. Let me explain. Super VHS for recordings that were made from an original, such as a camera. That's the best example. Kept the luminance and the chroma separate. I'll draw you a diagram. This is kind of a crude drawing. Composite video, VHS, Super VHS. We're only going to touch on the VHS flavor here. Now, on your composite video signal, your video signal would extend from zero, well, just above zero, all the way up to about 4 megahertz for NTSC. And I say 4 megahertz because for broadcast, the audio carrier of this pen, it likes to leak, audio carrier would be at 4.5. So for broadcast, you could not extend much beyond that. Now, Super VHS, yes, the video signal could actually extend much further than this, but for just to make things simple, we're going to end it at 4 megahertz, even though a Super VHS signal, the luminance can extend a little beyond 4 megahertz. Not much, but a little bit beyond. But we'll talk about 4. VHS, regular, this would be Super VHS. We'll talk about that in a minute, but this is the composite baseband video signal. We're not talking about the VHS side of things because that's completely different. But once your video signal exceeded or got into this area here, this is the area where the chroma lives. And once your video frequency started to get into that area where the chroma is, this is where you would get the dot crawl and the strobes and the stripes beating with color, like the referee's jersey, for example. That's where the interference occurs. Now, on a regular VHS, it doesn't matter because a regular VHS machine, it can't produce 400 lines of resolution. It can produce about 240, and the video typically falls off like that. So it's not recording, frequency-wise, anything anywhere near this. Now, because videotape does not have the bandwidth to record the direct color, when you're talking broadcast 1-inch and 2-inch format tapes, they recorded the video signal exactly as it was. A composite signal that contained the color information in the video signal where it lived on the video baseband. Since all the cassette formats, VHS, Betamax, 3/4 inch, 8mm, high 8, Super VHS, even Betacam for that matter, don't have the bandwidth to record the chroma where it lives on the video. So what they have to do is they have to shift the chroma down. And they do that by mixing it with another signal, and they shift it way down in frequency. In the case of VHS, they put it at 629 kilohertz. The rest of the video signal is then FM modulated so that they can put it onto a carrier, and that carrier typically will go from just below a megahertz all the way up to 3, 4, 5, 6. In the case of high 8, this extends all the way out to 7 megahertz. Super VHS, I believe that was around 5, maybe 5 or 6. Beta 1 SHB extended to 6, but we're only talking VHS. Your regular VHS falls off like here. Doesn't have the bandwidth. But this removes the color from the composite signal and it shifts it down and records it at a lower frequency, at lower bandwidth. You can see that the bandwidth here is a lot less than it is on this one because it doesn't have the bandwidth to do it. It's compressed. What I'm getting at is anytime a signal is in a composite signal like this, you are going to get this interference in this section. This section here is going to get interfered. That's where you get the dot crawl and you get the stripes and the strobes and so forth. You don't get it in this format because the color is not anywhere where the luminance is. Why this is important is any signal that's originated from broadcast TV or from a laser disc or from another VHS or a regular conventional camera, it's already starting out as this. Now, on a VHS camera or an 8mm camera or a Betamovie camera, you don't have to worry about that. We won't talk about Betacam because it's a different format. It's a component format. We're talking composite formats here. You don't have to worry about it because the tape itself can't record this. The tape is going to fall off long before. The bandwidth on the tape is going to fall off long before, so it's not an issue. But on Super VHS and High 8, it is. And if it came from a composite source, that interference is already there. You're not getting rid of it. You can't. But on a Super VHS camera and a High 8 camera, they could keep the chroma and the luminance or the black and white information separate. And that's what that little connector that you have, you know, the one that's got the 4 pins on it, it's called an S-video. That's what that did. You've got luminance on one pin, chroma on another, and then of course ground for both of them, for both the luminance and the chroma. That's the 4 pins. It has basically 2 cables running in it, one to carry the chroma, one to carry the luminance. So this has never happened. You're recording your luminance here, you get the full bandwidth all the way out to the limit of the format, and the chroma is recorded down here in its own section, completely separate from the luminance. And to maintain that interference-free signal, when you play the tape back, you have to, because you're going to take the chroma and you're going to put it back at 3.579. On this S-video signal, your luminance is just carrying, or the luma signal is just the luminance, the black and white information. The chroma is just this portion that was up here, but without any video. Just this portion that's converted back. So they convert this back up to 3.5795545 for NTSC. PAL is 4.43. When you start out, as I said, when you start out with a signal that started out as a component signal or an S-video, an S-video is a component signal. It just has the red and blue combined on the same wire. True component breaks this out even more, so you've got red on one, blue on the other, and green are the luminance. It's luminance, it's not green, it's Y, they call it Y. Y, R minus Y, B minus Y. In this case, it's Y, and it's RB minus Y. It's got the red and blue on the same wire. And it's recorded on tape. But when you convert this back up in frequency, you transport it to your monitor or to your other devices on an S-video signal, on an S-video cable, I should say. So you can keep the signal separate. The quasi VHS or quasi SVHS playback does everything except for this last step. It's going to take it and it's going to convert them back and turn it into that. So the interference, the crosstalk as it's called, between the luminance and the chroma gets inserted, but it's actually on playback on the machine. Saying that they will still produce a sharper picture from a Super VHS tape, but you will end up with crosstalk when the luminance gets into the frequency range where the chroma lives. So the claim that SQPB machines will play back a Super VHS tape at VHS resolution is only partly true. It will actually play back a Super VHS tape, but it will play it back with far more than the 240 lines that regular VHS. It will play it back at well in excess of 300 lines of horizontal resolution, maybe not quite making it to 400 because there's going to be some filtering in there, but you will get the crosstalk between the luminance and the chroma when the detail gets to that specific frequency. But they don't roll off too much, so it's going to look better on an SQPB than VHS, but it's not going to look as good as a full Super VHS machine, which has got the additional noise reduction circuitry and the S-video connector. I don't know whether this machine works. I'm going to try it out for the first time here, and we're going to do some maintenance on this one. And it looks like it's threading, but actually it's playing, but I think I need to do a general service on this, and then we'll put a Super VHS tape in it. Just the way that thing, like I hit eject and, well, it's not ejecting. Let's try it again. So I think first things first, we're going to do a quick service on this, and we'll see how it plays a Super VHS tape. So standard cleaning, mode switch. This is the JVC. It's a later model JVC. This one's mine. I'm going to hang on to this one just because it does have the ability to play Super VHS. Even though I have real Super VHS machines, it's always nice to have a machine that can play a Super VHS tape, especially since you never know how long the other equipment's going to last. Eventually something's going to break, so it's always nice to have a machine that can play Super VHS tapes, even though it doesn't do it in the full quality that a real Super VHS machine will do. It'll do it pretty close to the quality. Remove the front. You gotta pull the chassis out on this one. I don't think there's any screws that have to come out from the bottom on this one. I should be able to just remove a few chassis screws and lift the chassis out on this machine. If I'm not mistaken, unplug the head, or unplug the audio head, unplug the drum, and there'll be a connector at the back that needs to come undone as well. Lift a couple screws out. And there's probably a couple more in the front that are kind of hidden under the front basket. So I gotta remove, or gotta wind it in a bit to get to them. Okay, there's a couple screws right down here. You can see them. One here, one on the other side. I'm gonna wind the mechanism back. So that the mode switch is in the home position. I'll just lift this out this way. I'll just take the chassis out like that. This is what I was concerned about, getting the cable back into that. But there's no screws on this one that hold it together, so there's not really a requirement to lift the board out like some machines. You have to tear the board out. This one is not one of them. Got a belt here. A fair bit of tension on this still. Actually, there's nothing wrong with the belt, that I can't even stop it. I can't even stop it from turning unless I really try. So that belt's good. The belt's good. We're going to pop out the mode switch. Now, sometimes people like to mark the mode switch so that they know where it goes. You can if you want. I generally don't, because these ones are keyed. You can see they're keyed into a larger tooth on the slide. Sometimes people like to put a little mark just like that so that they can see where it's going. We'll do it just for the hell of things. Pop out that screw, and lift the mode switch out. It is dirty. You can see the contacts at the back here where it plugs in. These should be all nice and silver, but they're not. They're dirty. And again, considering where this thing came from, that does not surprise me. As I say, it came from the House of Smoke, and that's not a good thing. That's probably why when I tried to eject the tape, it just kind of sat there and the loading motor went back and forth a few times and it didn't want to do anything because, well, you can see the contacts themselves. They are just gungy. So let's clean those up. Just waiting for the breaker to trip. I turned off the big heat and I've got a couple small ones going here now. I got a 4.8 kilowatt heater on the other side of the garage, which heats the place up pretty quick, but it's loud. Right now I've just got a couple of little small ones just sitting next to me here to keep me warm because it's below freezing here today. This is the cold snap that we get. So put a bit of deoxit on here and then we'll clean this up with a Q-tip. Think it works? You think this stuff works? Put a little bit behind just to lubricate and keep the contacts clean for a little while. The contacts here on the switch. Yeah, you think they're dirty? Or were dirty? They're not dirty now, they're clean, but they were dirty. Exceptionally, I'm surprised this thing didn't eat the tape. Alright, we'll spin this around a few times. And I'll give the contacts at the back another little treatment here. So remember I put a little mark on here, I just put it right at the edge there, even though these are keyed. So it's only going to go in one way, because there's two gaps here, right? And they go through there's two larger teeth on the main slide, wherever the heck it is, right here. These three teeth have to go into these three, otherwise it's not going to work. It'll break if you have it out of time and the large tooth tries to go where there isn't one, it will jam. I don't know if it'll break or not, but it'll certainly jam. And also notice that there is, in the fully ejected position, there is a little mark here. There's two little arrows that point at each other. You see them? They show up on camera, but there is two little arrows right there. I'm viewing this on a standard definition monitor, so my other one was an HD monitor. It made it a lot easier to see things. But there's the alignment marks, right where I put the mark on the side there, just so I know where it is. See, that one little broken clip's not going to affect anything, just because the post that this sits over is going to keep the other ones from bending in anyway, so it's not going to fall off. The plastic is all pretty brittle these days and will break quite easily. Of course, this unit features optical rotation sensors for the supply and take-up. Here's our optical sensor for the tape end, and there's one on each side. There's one over here, and the other one is actually on the board. Where the heck is it? Where is the end sensor? Okay. Well, it's supposed to be here. Where is it? I can see where it's supposed to be. It doesn't look like it's pulled through, because it doesn't look like this, like it's got solder over top of the holes, like it's never been there. What are they doing with this thing? Just running it back until the reels stop? Isn't that... That is just bizarre. I have never seen a VCR without an end sensor. I was thinking maybe it was one mounted on the board facing up, but I don't see one, and nothing fell out of it. There's a bit of broken plastic that fell out from one of the anchors, but that is a new one to me. That piece of plastic that broke out probably broke off right there, whatever that was for. No start sensor, no top sensor. That is weird. That is really weird. Huh. All right, well, let's throw it back together. See, there should be one there. What the hell? I don't understand what they've done. We'll see we'll plug this thing in and see what it does. Throw the chassis back in, plug it in, pop it in place. Should just drop down and the screws hold it in place, just like that. I've never been into this machine. This was given to me, so. But nothing came out of it, so I don't know where the hell that part is. But it's missing. You can clearly see where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be right there, looking this way towards this tape end sensor. But there's nothing there. That is, that's a new one. Did they forget it at the factory? It's never been there. Like if there was one there, you would see where it was pulled through. You would see the holes on the bottom of the circuit board, and you can see that they're covered over with solder. So there's never been one there. This came out of the factory with no end sensor, which is just, well, it doesn't surprise me anymore. It was a cheap machine at the end of the line, and that is that. I'm going to put this connector back in. It's going to be fun. Just like that. I think I'm in. That's what she said. Okay, that is, I believe, plugged in. I guess I'll find out soon enough if I don't get a picture. Plug the head back in. You can just see women rolling their eyes right now at that comment. And I gotta roll the mechanism forward again so that I can get those last two screws in. Hey, that doesn't go there. That's better. Of course, you guys can't see what I'm doing because I'm off camera, but that's got the mechanism back. I should be able to plug this thing in now, and it should reset. Even without the front panel on. Well, it's going to go through the motions and it should reset. There we go. It's reset. I want to see what happens when this thing gets back to the beginning. Okay, play is one of these buttons. One of these buttons is play. It is this one. And it's playing. Okay, stop is over here. And this one is rewind. I want to see what happens when this gets back to the beginning, because there's no end sensor. So I think it probably will slow down. It's probably detecting the tape reels, and it's going to go slow. And stop. We should fast forward this thing to get it into the tape so that it actually gets moving pretty quick. And maybe I'll do that. I'll see what happens when it gets, because it's going to hit the end of the tape for sure. But I want to see what happens when I rewind the tape from the end. Does it slow down? If it slows down like this, which it should, then yeah, I can see why they eliminated the end sensor. Why bother? Right? It's not going to do any damage if it's going slow like that. with virtually no torque, which there isn't any. It's just going to get back to the beginning and stop. And then we'll roll the tape. Cool! Alright, let's go forward. Okay, now this is fast forward. I'll wind it about halfway. I'll stop the camera while I'm doing this just so you guys can watch it on rewind, because I'm sure it's going to slow right down, and that's why they just said, you know what, we don't need the end sensor. We need one on this side because when it's in play, it's being pulled through from the capstan and pinch roller, so we don't want the tape hitting the leader because that would throw a lot of tension on the tape, stretch the tape and the whole 9 yards. But when we're in fast forward or rewind, we can figure out what position the tape is in from the speed difference between the two of them. And that is exactly what they're doing. So let's just reverse directions. And this should start to ramp up speed, which it does. And we'll just watch what it does as it gets close to the beginning. It should slow down to a crawl. And it slows down, it stops, and then it goes real slow. Interesting. Oh, it's not going to win any rewind races that way. It got down to the last 3 minutes of the tape, it looks like. Well, actually, it wasn't quite at 0, so it's probably the last 5 minutes. But it's saying 1 minute here. I don't think it was about here where I put the tape in. So it gets down to the last couple minutes, and then it just goes slow. Notice that it uses the capstan and pinch roller to spool the tape back at slower speed, and that's how it does it there. That's where I put the tape in. So we'll see how many minutes it is. It's probably only a minute or two at the most. So the last, say, 4 or 5 minutes of tape, it just goes down to a crawl, and you're cursing the machine like, come on, hurry up, I want to change the tape, damn it. If you're wondering why I'm sounding like this today, I had to go to the post office to pick something up, and I had to walk past the cosmetic counter, and someone had just been spraying a bunch of perfume. And well, let's put it this way, by the time I got to pick up my package, I'd probably sneezed 15 times, and everybody thinks I'm sick, but no, I'm having an allergic reaction to scent. Oops, maybe I should take the tape out before I put this on. What do you think? Here's a real Super VHS tape. And we'll take a look at the picture. You know, those white flecks that I was seeing when I was playing this tape on the BR605, they're there on this tape. Those are actual dropouts on this tape. See them? I thought maybe it was the dropout compensator or something on that other machine, but they're there. This one's doing it too. Doesn't have the clearest of search, does it? But the picture's great. Like, that's playing back the Super VHS tape. If you put this tape into a regular VHS machine, it would not play at all. And it's playing it. And it's playing it perfect. Let's try cleaning the heads on this thing and see whether that. Whoops, well, that was the power button. But we're gonna clean the heads on this. I haven't done that yet. I wonder, maybe the heads might be a little bit dirty. I forgot where this machine came from. It came from the House of Smoke. The House of the Rising Smoke. So the heads themselves are probably dirty. A little bit. But I bet you that'll affect the search. Especially if one of the EP heads was dirty. Yeah, there's a bit of dirt on there. For the hell of it, we'll do the other heads as well. Do the Okay, let's take a look at the picture now and see if the search and freeze frame and stuff works better. Okay, here, let's see what search looks like now. Search, oh yeah, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. That's more like it. And pause. Yeah, that's okay as well. I don't have the remote for this, so I can't adjust the tracking for slow. But it's playing, and it's playing well. Wonder if that redfish is going to, oh, I turned the color down on this, but this TV, the tube is flaring. And I had that orange fish yesterday, and it was just, it looked terrible. Maybe put the scope on here and take a look at the alignment while I'm at it. Got my two probes, one connected to the playback RF for the video head, the other one connected to the switch point. Let's look at the scope. Might not be easy to see on the camera. But it is, there it is. It's looking good. It's hard to tell on camera, I know. It's looking actually very good. It's, I don't see much in the way of level shifting. It's hard to see on camera, but the waveform is flat. If I move the audio control head slightly, you can see it's actually looking pretty good. There's no dips or anything, right? If I push on the guide, for example, you see that's what you don't want to see. You don't want to see that. And it's looking good. If I move the other probe over to the AFM, this is the hi-fi audio, which is again looking very good. Entrance point maybe could be tweaked ever so slightly. When we align the guides, we always do it, well, we don't have to, but it's a good idea to do it to the audio head as opposed to the audio hi-fi head as opposed to the video. And the reason for that is because the audio hi-fi track is a much thinner track and therefore harder to read. So if I just go to the entrance side guide and just touch it ever so slightly, don't worry, I'll show you on camera what I'm doing. But we want that to be as flat as possible, which it now is. Okay, this one's done. Yep. Those dropouts we saw, those white streaks, they were recorded on the tape. It's either maybe the tape's deteriorating, I don't know, but looks pretty good. It looks as good as playing it over on a regular TV over a composite output. This looks every bit as good as it would be playing it on a Super VHS machine, which is really all they were ever designed to do, was to allow you to play Super VHS tapes without having a Super VHS machine. I think it was a great feature to add to VHS players. SQPB. Because it cost them nothing to implement, and it just increased compatibility. And who knows, Super VHS machines probably would have had a much bigger market penetration had every machine had SQPB capability. You know, I could have seen movies being released on Super VHS in high numbers had every manufacturer, when Super VHS was first developed, had every manufacturer jumped on the bandwagon and said, we're going to make our regular machines play Super VHS tapes. Then I could have seen Super VHS actually getting a bigger market share than it did, because it didn't. It got market share with the purists that demanded the best picture quality. It got some sales for people that were former Betamax users that had their Betamax for recording off TV because it recorded a better picture than VHS of the day. But that, and of course, people doing production work were using them as a production machine. But as far as everyday users, no. I think had they had playback capabilities on all of the machines, we would have seen a much higher adoption of Super VHS recorders and probably seen movies released in Super VHS. That is until DVD, of course, came along and eliminated that. As you can see, it's rewinding nice and slow. It goes back to the beginning, it stops, and then it rolls forward a bit. So that is a unique design that I have never seen before. First one. Who would have thought they could have got away and just saved themselves a penny on the cost of a part? Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.